Great. So we finished last time talking about passing on, chains of copying and so on. And so today I'd like to look at consent and invitation. When does participation begin, so to speak? So rather than consent being considered as sort of a checkbox, something that we tick, but in this episode I'd like us to explore the ongoing negotiation and attention to the different forms of participation we have and how we are invited and provide consent within them. So to start, I'd like you to look for invisible invitations, to dance without asking anyone to join, and notice when or how the others begin to align or watch or respond. And this, don't do anything that you feel breaks consent. Just see where those lines of invitation and consent begin and end. And like we've done with staging dances, you can take this to different contexts where dance occurs or could occur, or even to places where dance doesn't usually occur, and just see how the different responses can invite different qualities in your dancing. So we're looking for invisible invitations, yeah? So take some time, go away and play with that. Great. So it's a real delicate space, and it's something that we're always participating in. There's so many codes and ways of consenting to what is acceptable or allowed, especially in improvisation settings. It's very interesting to see how the way we dance is informed by the people around, which is why working with an audio form where we have no visuals between us really allows, hopefully, that you can find a style or qualities of moving which are your own, and you can break with anything that maybe I'm setting as a given and introduce things that I wouldn't even consider as places to explore. Now, I'd like you to create like a conditional participation. So set yourself a rule, like I will only move if someone else moves, right? I will only stop if someone else stops. Or it could even be more open. I will only move if I feel invited to move. Yeah? Or I will continue moving until I'm invited to stop. So play with some sort of condition that invites your participation depending on a certain condition. I will only move when someone looks away. I will only move when someone looks at me, vice versa. Yeah, a little bit like musical statues, if you've ever played that. Dance, dance, dance. If the music stops, you stop. But in this, we're sort of playing with the consent and relationship to dance. this next one that I would like us to play with is a sort of like, it gets into a quality of performativity. I mean, we're already there when we're speaking about invitation and consent. There's an element of inviting to perform and to have dance performed for one another or within a certain space. In here, I'd like you to play with creating consent for dance to exist, and then deliberately withdrawing it. So sort of playing with that edge in a way of when the dance is happening and is not happening, and how noticing a little bit how it remains active, like what is provided through inviting and then revoking specific types of dance. Does it give space? Like this idea in interviews, if you stay silent, you provide space for the other person to start talking rather than continuing to ask questions and trying to encourage activity, encourage speaking. Yeah, so this is a little bit of a play with that border. So take a moment, see if you can create a consent and then withdraw from it, and see what kind of activity remains when you withdraw. Okay, so we've touched on different types of consent, playing with consent and starting to think around it, and invitations, invisible invitations, how invitations work. I think it's one of the main conditions of dancing is just the invitation, right? Like we often we can sort of consider anything a dance, but unless we're invited to feel it as dance, then how do we rarely would consider it as dance, right? Like the intention and the consent and the allowance. This is why dancing in public spaces can be so difficult, because you're working against a lot of what the sort of normal consent of a space is, and that's good as well. Like these kind of ethical spaces, it's important we're engaging in them all the time and we're actively working with them in order to try and be more ethical. And of course, consent is extremely important within that world and within that thinking and practice that you're sort of engaging in it. So, in fact, now I'd like to look at inviting yourself, right? So, practice noticing the moments when you allow yourself to dance. What makes it permissible, right? So, inviting yourself to dance, like when does it occur that you feel like you're allowing yourself to dance? When do you feel like you're allowed to dance? So sort of rather than trying to produce an invitation, go out now into the rest of your days after listening to this and see where the dance is allowed for you. And then as we start to analyze this and sort of pick at it, we can start to articulate better how we can create spaces for dance to exist, what kind of things are allowed, what kind of relationships and meetings are sort of important in relationship to our dancing. Yeah. And when did you feel inside the dance? And when did you feel outside the dance? And who decided? Is perhaps a sort of final question to leave on. When did you feel inside the dance? And when did you feel outside? And who decided? So what is this invitation that we have and work with? And can we create and choreograph different situations that allow for different for different types of inside and outside? Yeah. And how important is it? How important is it that some people feel outside, right? That's kind of a big question. Is it important that some people feel they can't do the dance, they can't participate in the dance, they can't understand the dance? Is that a big part of the dance? I don't know. Great, we'll leave it there, and I hope you enjoyed. Hi, thanks for listening. If you can support the podcast, please go to paypal.me/dancepeter. I'm just looking for a little bit of funding to help support the cost of the hosting. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you so much.